Welcome to Money Wise Wednesday. If you're joining us on the Hoop Podcast, we welcome you. My name is Andre,
And I'm Kelly.
and we're here with a really cool topic today. We are going to be talking about mind over money, if I can get my papers right. Mind over money, how mental health affects your spending. So we wanted to kind of go outside the box a little bit when we start talking about these financial topics. And I thought this was a really cool idea that came across my desk. And to kind of talk about your mental state when we spend money, how we consider saving money, the psychology behind all that stuff. Now, one thing I do want to say that we are not licensed therapists, not even close.
No.
Um, we are just two people who are passionate about financial wellness. And if anything we share today hits close to home, please reach out to a mental health professional. That's how people that can actually diagnose you and actually talk to you more deeply about this type of stuff. So we're not trying to diagnose anybody.
Mm-mm.
We're just talking about what we see in our experiences with money and how people think about money. Because not only do we
And
have
how we think about money.
exactly, yeah, exactly. Not only do we have our own philosophies and stuff that we talk about, but we actually work with people all the time, and we can kind of see all the different aspects of how people think about money. So let's get into it. So let's do an icebreaker. I like to do my icebreakers, and you can answer in the chat. You can send us a message, whatever you want to do. But what is the most emotionally charged purchase you've ever made? And no judgments. So Kelly, what you got?
A car.
Yeah.
And which is kind of funny for me because I don't get emotionally charged about buying cars and stuff normally. But
Mhm.
yeah, there was one time that I really wanted a new car. I'd been driving a car for a couple years. It had no AC.
Mhm.
And we got the AC fixed, and then it still didn't work. Like a month later, it stopped working again. And
Oh, no.
and I just was done. I couldn't afford that car. I didn't have it budgeted, but I went and bought a car, and I
Yeah.
was so excited. And then I had to deal with the ramifications of buying a car that I couldn't afford, and I did. And
Mhm.
and yeah, that was mine.
Yeah.
What was yours?
So we talked a little off mic earlier, and I mentioned the guitar. So I'm also a musician, less so now than I used to be. But there was a point in my life where I was a gigging musician, and there was a guitar, not the one we talked about earlier, because my wife actually bought that one before she was my wife. That's a whole nother story. But there was this guitar. If
Your
you if
sugar
you're
mama.
familiar, it was a Fender Stratocaster. It was a special edition. It was a really, really nice guitar. It was about $2,000. We didn't make $2,000 guitar money back then, but I had to have it. It was like I picked it up and I played it, and it was just like, this is my guitar.
It was like butter.
It really was. It was. And so I bought it, and it was not a good decision
No.
because I wasn't making enough money in gigs to justify. Because we'll talk about this a little
Okay,
later.
but
Yeah.
in your defense, you never make enough in gigs. In general, musicians don't
True.
make enough in gigs to pay for all the stuff that they buy.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Yeah, we will get into how we justify spending
Yes.
money in a little bit. But yeah, I definitely found a way to justify to myself and to my wife why it was so important that I bought this $2,000 guitar that spent most of its time on the wall.
Stop.
All right. So if you have an example of like an emotionally charged purchase, let us know. So we want to get into a kind of our first section. We're going to talk about retail therapy. You've heard of retail therapy, haven't you?
I have experienced it firsthand.
It's also called emotional spending.
Yeah.
Retail therapy is kind of the trendy way to think about it. So do you want to kind of, in your own words, define retail therapy or what it is?
So for me, what retail therapy used to be was a way to cover up my emotions, a way to make me feel better, a way for me to forget about the reality of what my account looked like.
Mhm.
It was a way for me to get things that we weren't paying for, that we should have been, our bills. It was just an escape from reality.
Yeah.
And it made
Yeah.
me feel good at the time. And I always, when I'm having classes, or especially when I'm talking with teens,
Mhm.
I was like, that handbag is not worth the emotional distress that it's going to
Yeah.
cause you.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
we get so emotionally charged about, like, we feel so good when we buy something.
Mhm.
We don't think about what's going to happen at the end when we can't afford to pay that, or when we have to pay that and we have an actual bill, a need that we need to pay for.
Absolutely.
So and then you buy something, you have buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you're buying equipment. My husband has buyer's remorse all the time.
Yeah.
But it's buying something to make yourself feel better and not thinking about what's going to happen at the end. So
absolutely. So it has been shown that there are dopamine is the chemical in your brain that receives pleasure sensors, and it literally pumps into your bloodstream and makes you feel good when you do certain things. And shopping has that effect on a lot of people.
Yes.
And it's not even necessarily what you bought, but the fact that you bought it,
yes,
will give you that hit. And I watch a lot of Hoarders. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm not calling anybody a hoarder out there, but I have noticed on a lot of the episodes, some people just shop just to fill a void, and just to feel something, and just to have that hit of dopamine to be like, okay, I did that thing today, and it feels better. But it's not always good for our wallets, and it's not always necessarily good for our emotional state either, because once you can't spend more, then you've tied all of your emotions to the things and not necessarily to what's important.
Yeah, and if you do that and you are one of these people that impulse shop and you really don't have the money to do it, then you're going to take a hit on the other end, because again, you're not going to be able to pay the bills that you need to pay, because either you spend it all on this or you have to pay, your credit cards, whatever, off. I like to shop. I do. And I've been pretty good about not shopping as much, but over the weekend, my husband had to go out of town. So I decided to clean my closet and not just tidy it up. Although that would have made him happy too. I literally took 3 trash bags full of clothes that I don't wear out of my closet that were still in really great shape, and a bag that was not in great shape that I got rid of. 4 bags of stuff out of my closet that I never needed to buy in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't miss it now. I actually found some clothes that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times we overcompensate with buying and purchasing because it's going to make us feel good, or we need that because so-and-so has it, or this person has it, and I want to be just like them. You don't need to do that.
Yeah. And some things to look out for if you're not sure if you're an emotional shopper, signs that you may be emotional spending is like if you're shopping to escape boredom. Like if you don't have anything else to do and you're like, let me go shopping. Yeah. That might not be a healthy thing to be doing.
Especially at Guitar Center.
Or the thrift store.
So,
hey. And we're going to get into this. Sometimes we get into this mind state where it's the thrift store, so it's okay. Not necessarily. We'll talk about it. If you're escaping boredom, loneliness, sadness, or stress, if you're shopping to fill that void, then it's probably time to start talking to somebody or really thinking about why you're doing this.
Yes.
Another sign is if you feel guilty. You talked about the guilt. If you feel guilty right after buying something, then that's also a sign you're emotionally shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then buying things you don't need or you can't afford. Yeah, I told you about my guitar. I couldn't afford that guitar, but I put it on credit.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's okay.
Yeah. If you're putting it on credit, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't have the cash. Now, okay, let me back up. If you're using it for the rewards and your plan is to pay it off immediately, that's using it as a tool. That's totally different. But if you're paying for it because you don't have the cash and you're paying it for it on credit, that means you can't afford it. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow.
It's tough. Yeah.
But that's the truth.
Yeah.
You can't afford it if you have to put it on credit. So really think about that stuff.
And if you are purchasing like a car or a big ticket item that of course you would get a loan for, just think about if you can afford that payment. You can find out if you check with your bank or credit union. I know when somebody comes in here, we can tell them, if you're going to buy this car, this is how much it's going to cost. This is really what you can afford to spend. So knowing that going in before you're making that emotional purchase will help you, because you'll know already, you know not to look at that $50,000 car, because what you can afford to buy is a $20,000 car.
Exactly.
And so it'll help get you out of that, because at the end of the day, a car is going to be worth $0.
Right. Perfect example. We just bought a car and we got a pre-approval because we didn't want to have to go through all that at the dealership. Our dealership experience was very easy. We went in with the check and said, hey, we got 30,000. What you got on your lot? Going to get that pre-approval first is really beneficial, especially when you're
Because
shopping for
before you
cars.
went, you knew what your payment was going to be, which is
Exactly.
great. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw this out
Mhm.
there. His was not a planned trip to the car
No, it
dealership.
wasn't. Mm-mm.
So, I mean, sometimes life happens. And if you've got your spending under control and you understand your credit and your
Mhm.
budget and everything else, when an emergency happens,
Mhm.
then you're going to be set in the right spot to be able to make that purchase and not stress out about it.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So, but make sure you're not buying things you don't need. Now, that's a little hard to assess in the moment. But if you ever, so there's a couple of tricks I've seen. People have gone in their closets, and if they wear it, then they turn the hanger the opposite direction. And so, in a year or in 6 months or whatever, you can go back and see all the stuff that you've never worn or you didn't
Oh.
wear, and you could clear your closet that way. Or you can think, "Am I spending too much money on clothes? Because I'm buying a bunch of stuff that I'm not wearing." Right? Stuff still has tags on it that you may be emotionally spending. Like just
Well, and it's tough sometimes because a lot of things that we order now that we purchase are online. I know we don't have a lot of places to shop here. So we order things online and then it kind of gets tossed aside and you don't get it returned right away.
Mhm.
And then you're sitting there looking at it. But if you're one of those shoppers and you're having to buy stuff online that you need, make sure that if you don't use it or that it's not quite the right fit, it's not going to change
Right,
next
right.
week. Just send it back.
Yeah.
And get that. For one, it's going to keep the clutter down, and for the other,
Mhm.
it's going to help your wallet.
Yeah, a lot of this goes hand in hand with clutter. So if you find yourself like I have my house, I have a decent sized house, but we don't have a lot of storage. So it's real easy for our house to get cluttered. So it helps with that. It's
And you have little
also with
kids, so
spending.
yeah,
Yeah, and little kids, yeah. They're
we'll
just
blame them.
they're clutter
Okay.
in and of themselves. So there's a stat that 62% of Americans admit that they make purchases to cheer themselves up. That's an interesting stat. That means people
See,
are
I
not.
think it's more than that.
I think it's more than that
Yeah.
too. I buy stuff. to
Nobody
cheer
asked
myself
me.
up. I don't buy Oreos for the health benefits. I definitely buy them to cheer myself up.
Mhm.
My son asked me the other day. This is a tangent. My son asked me, he's like, "How many Oreos do you eat?" And my wife was like, "Oh, I eat 2 at a time." I'm like, "Are you
2.
insane? I eat a sleeve at a time." What do you mean?
We don't keep them in the house. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Double stuffed is the only way to go.
There you go.
Double stuffed is the only way to go. Nearly 1 in 5 Gen Zers say that emotional spending is their biggest budget hurdle. So that's interesting that that generation feels like they're emotionally spending a little bit more.
Mhm.
And this is the stat, y'all. I did not make this up. Women are slightly more likely than men to emotionally spend, but men spend more.
Yes.
And that is true in our
That
house.
is a fact.
That is true in our
Yes.
house. I will say.
I nickel and dime it, and my husband goes out and makes some big old purchases. Yes.
Yes.
Usually
Yeah.
at Guitar Center.
I have to admit, my toys
Yeah.
are expensive.
Yes.
My wife, she buys a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
And
But
then,
we're
yeah.
buying for the family. Is that
Mhm.
what she says?
Let's get to
So,
that
yeah.
section. Yes. Okay, perfect segue.
Yep.
How do you justify impulse buying? And I have to point this out because Kim said I can get away with spending on my child.
Yep. And that's how I am, Kim, because I talk about my grandkids. If the grandkids need it, it doesn't even matter. Yeah.
You don't even ask how much it costs, do you?
No, I will shop around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like my granddaughter wanted an expensive doll because she just
Mhm.
loves them, and I did buy it,
Mhm.
but I haven't given it to her yet. It'll be for her birthday. So
Okay.
I do try and watch that, but that doesn't mean it's off limits. It just means that she
Yeah.
might not get it right away. She's going to get it.
I do some psychological gymnastics to justify some of my purchases. 'Cause
We all do. Yeah.
I like shoes, okay? It's my thing. I love buying shoes, and they are expensive shoes. And sometimes I'll buy the same pair of shoes, but in a different color. So I'll be like, Jordans, I like Jordans. And Jordans are, y'all know, $200 at least. And so I'll be like, but I don't have this color though. Even though I don't have any outfits to go with it.
But you may one
But that's
day.
how exactly.
Yes.
That's how I will buy the outfits, right? But my point is that's not necessarily a healthy way to think about spending money.
Right.
If I'm really being honest with myself, that's not that's not mentally healthy
Right.
to be doing stuff like that. I should be buying things that I need and then,
Setting
taking
aside in case of emergency.
right.
Yeah.
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 Now, I don't want us to go into this conversation that we don't want you to have any of the things that you want, because it's okay to buy things that you want. Matter of fact, we want you to live happy and comfortable,
Hmm.
right? So yes, impulse purchasing every once in a while is fine, but it's when you're doing it all the time.
Yes.
Like I don't buy a new pair of shoes every month. I only probably buy a new pair of shoes every quarter. It's probably like a couple times a year, but they're big purchases, so I really do have to pay attention.
So I have one little trick that I do, and it usually it helps because I really makes me stop. First, I laugh, and then I get a little sad that I did this. But there was one time that I bought a lime green Coach bag. I just thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Uh,
I've never ever used it. I think I used it one time. So it hangs in my closet as a reminder of making dumb purchases. Like it does because it is something that I will never use. I still haven't given it away. And every once in a while, I do pick it up and I'm like, oh, but if you know me, you know that I am not, you're not going to see me walking around with a lime green bag. It's just not going to happen. Maybe when I'm 75, I don't care. But that is kind of my little reminder of being careful not to make expensive purchases that are not necessary.
Let me go on the flip side, because
Okay.
small purchases work this way too. So I'm gonna talk about my wife. We've been together 16 years, y'all. She knows I'm gonna talk about her. I'm gonna hear it when I get home. I don't care. We'll be okay. Um, she came home one day with squatty potties.
You said multiples.
Multiple. She
Yes,
bought
okay.
two. We have two
Yes,
bathrooms, so
okay.
she bought one for each bathroom. And I'm like, why? She's like, oh, but there's so many benefits and blah blah. And I bought it. It was on sale, or they were on sale, and blah blah blah. I'm like, we are not going to use these. And sure enough, I don't know if she uses them, because I
It's too
do
much
not.
information.
It's too much info. I don't use them. My kids refuse to use them. So it's
That might be something that comes in handy at 75 also.
maybe, yeah. So, but my point is, like, sometimes we'll go out and do little thrift store shopping, or um, maybe we have a routine, like every week we go to the bins or the thrift stores or whatever it may be. But that stuff adds up.
It does.
It really does, and you just got to be careful.
Mhm.
And I love the comment that sometimes spending you can get away with stuff for spending on your kids, because that's also a way that we've justified it in our house.
Mhm.
Probably spending unnecessary money because we feel like, because it's for the kids, kids need it. They're growing, right? But my kids have way too many clothes, way too many clothes, and so yeah, just be careful. Be careful.
Yep.
Oh, my light went out.
Hold on one second.
We have
Go
motion
ahead.
lights in this building, and while it's great for the environment, it's not great for podcasting. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's go into our second segment, and we're going to talk about anxiety, depression, and money spiraling. Now, we're trying not to get too heavy, and again, we are not psychologists or psychiatrists, but we do want to acknowledge that these things exist,
Mhm.
and that some people are struggling with this, and so some things to look out for. So, mental health challenges often lead to two extremes: over control or avoidance.
Mhm.
So, anxiety spending is trying to control one thing or purchase your purchases when you feel like when life feels out of control.
Mhm.
So, a lot of times people will attempt to control when they feel like things are spiraling, like when there's chaos around you. They feel like, well, you can control spending and
Yes.
money,
Yeah.
and that's one part of your life that you have control over. I've also seen people who grew up with maybe in poverty, or didn't have
Yes.
much growing up, and so now that they're older and they're
They
financial,
deserve
they're
it.
stable,
Yeah.
or making
Yeah.
some money. Exactly, they feel like they deserve
Mhm.
all of these things now.
Mhm.
And you just want to be very, very careful that you're not overspending.
Yes.
Actually, I'll go back to myself. The shoes thing. We could never afford Jordans growing up, and I always wanted them because all my friends had them. Everybody was wearing Jordans. I could never There was no universe in which my mom was going to buy me a pair of
Yeah.
Jordans. So now that I'm older, I do feel like, you know what, I can buy these now and
Mm-hmm.
do that. So that's a part of it, psychology thing.
Yeah.
Depression is also a thing that results in financial neglect, either avoiding bills, budgeting, or even things like opening mail, having that anxiety about opening mail and stuff like that.
And I can say that even if you're not overspending in other areas, if you don't have the income coming in and you have more bills than you can afford,
Mm-hmm.
avoiding the bills, budgeting, or opening mail, that's a very real thing. And that's
Absolutely.
something that you need to talk to somebody at a credit union.
Mhm.
Like, we're financial counselors, not
Mhm.
planners, but counselors. That's something that you can start talking with somebody about. And the best thing to do is just to acknowledge it,
Mhm.
even to yourself, because it's very easy to push it all aside and act like it's not there.
That's right.
It's not going to go away.
It's
Your
not.
bills aren't going away. I can say this because this has happened to me earlier in my life. I
Mhm.
mean, I would get bills that would come in and I would just act like I didn't see them.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not going to go away. It's not going to help your credit. It's not going to help any of your financial situation. And then it's going to make your mental health situation even worse, because
That's right.
finances plays a huge key role in your mental health and
Mhm.
mental well-being.
Yeah, for sure. When I do a lot of workshops and stuff, and when we talk about credit, um, people often avoid their credit report because they just assume their credit's messed up anyways. So why bother?
And sometimes it's a surprise
Sometimes it's
because it's
better than you
not.
think it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of times it's better than
Yeah.
you think it is, but you never know until you look at it.
Right.
I remember when we were first starting to decide to get out of debt and get our finances in order. We had to, and it was hard to be like, okay, what's out there?
Yes.
Because I had done the same thing. Like, I was avoiding debts. It wasn't necessarily bills, but it
Right.
was debts. I was
Right.
avoiding that stuff. And they would send me a notice, and I'd be like, I'm not even
Yeah. Not even dealing with that.
dealing with
Yeah.
that. I don't have the mental capacity.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed, right?
Yes.
Because it was so much. It wasn't until we purposefully just put it all on the table, literally put it all on the table, and added it all up, and was like,
Mhm.
how are we going to tackle this? One thing at a time. I know it looks like a big number, but we're going to small bites.
Yep.
And eventually we were able to get out of the rut and get into a financially stable place. But again, you can't do that until you actually acknowledge it.
Yes.
And look at it. And if you are diagnosed with depression and stuff like that, that makes it a lot harder.
Yes.
But there are tools out there that can help you get out of that rut. And you probably need to talk to a professional.
Yes.
Again, you can talk to us, and as financial counselors, we can help you with those tools.
We can help you with the budget. We can help you with the things like that. So it's just a small piece of the puzzle, but we're here if you need it.
Yeah. Somebody just joined in. They asked us to go over the closet tip again because somebody else thought that was really interesting. So it was, I wish I could credit the right person.
Oh.
But you want to?
No, you go ahead. It was your tip.
So when you wear something, even after you wash it and all that, when you put it back in your closet, you put it back in your closet with the hanger pointing the opposite direction. So that way you know all the things that you've worn and what you haven't worn. And so when you go back, whatever the cycle may be, it might be it might be a couple months, it might be a year. You can go through your closet and literally see all of the outfits or clothes that you wear and what you don't. And so you can actually see if you're not using half your closet, half the stuff's in there you've never worn, you can clearly see it because the hangers are pointed the other direction. So it's a good way to kind of gauge whether you're overspending.
And one thing that I did when I was cleaning out my closet, because I literally took everything out, and if it's something that I have worn on a regular basis, that went in one section. But if it was something that I was like, oh, when I can fit into that, or if that, I started asking myself, if I could wear this, would I wear it?
Yeah.
And being honest with myself, no.
Sure.
I have one whole bag of, if that fit, I would never wear it because it's either older or out of style, or it just wasn't who I am. And so why was I hanging on to something I didn't need to hang on to something. It was probably something that I bought on sale or at a thrift store because it was a great deal, and it never has touched my body.
Right.
I've never worn it because it wasn't who I was. I just bought it because I thought it was a great idea to buy. So
it was either on sale or you
something,
thought
and so I just went through and cleaned out everything
Mhm.
that I would not wear. So if I could wear it, would I? And if not, it had to go. It
Mhm.
wasn't, oh, I'll save it in case. There was no in case.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just got rid of it. And I did feel better because that was one little cluttered area. My husband would say it's one big cluttered area, but I had like a whole rack of hangers left over, and I felt good about that because
Yeah,
I got rid of stuff that I didn't need,
for
and
sure.
the stuff that was good I donated. And I don't
Yeah.
usually donate to like Goodwill. I'll take it to a charity that gives it away
Mhm.
for free.
Mhm.
So that made me feel good too.
Yeah.
However, it
Yeah.
hasn't made it there yet, but it will.
So the tip actually does go beyond clothes. So
Yeah.
you can point your shoes the other direction in your closet and do the same thing.
That's a great idea.
Another tip is with groceries. A lot of people, and I wish I had the stat. I don't, but I wish I had the stat. We overspend on groceries a lot. Like we buy a lot of things that we don't end up eating and end up expiring or whatever, or we end up with more leftovers than we end up eating. And so being conscious of that, so we date our leftovers. And
Oh,
so yeah, when we put them, we have a Sharpie and when we put it in the refrigerator, we date it. And that way we can gauge, hey, we've been cooking way too much spaghetti. So maybe we can start doing a half portion. That way we don't have so many leftovers. And that way we're not throwing away food. Because that's money.
hmm.
When you throw away leftovers, that's money.
And food, everything is expensive right now.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. So yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's something we started doing within the last year, and it really has
Good job.
helped us out. Yeah. I can't take credit for that one. My wife
Okay.
came up with that. So there's something called the guilt loop. That's when you spend to feel better, but then you end up feeling worse, and so now you're spending to feel better again.
Yes.
That's true with a lot of vices, a lot of like addictive behaviors and stuff like that. So it just creates a cycle of negativity, and so be careful about getting caught in that.
hmm.
And oh, this is a big one. This is us. This used to be us. We're getting better. Overspending to appease others or to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
We really struggled with this, and it was with eating out at restaurants. We have friends that love eating out at restaurants. They like to go out on pretty much every weekend, and they invite us. And so for a long time, we didn't want to say no because we felt guilty. It's like, what if they don't like us? What if they think we're being standoffish?
hmm.
Whatever. And we really had to learn how to be like, hey, we can't afford to go to a restaurant every Sunday or every Saturday or whatever it was. And because that stuff adds up. And now we're a family of four. So it's
Yes.
like, we're talking about hundreds of dollars sometimes
hmm.
just to eat out. And so we've had to have those conversations. It's tough to be like, hey, I'm sorry, we're really trying to watch our spending. We can't necessarily go out this time. Or if it's just me and my wife, sometimes we will go out, but we'll just get appetizers.
hmm.
So, just really thinking about spending to appease others is something that we need to look out for. That's even with the things that you buy. So if you're buying a car because you think other people will like it, it's probably not a good
No.
purchase.
Or a house. I mean, that can go with anything.
Yeah.
Buying a house to impress other people. No.
Yeah, don't buy it.
Houses, cars, big purchases, little. I mean, all the way across the board. It's whether it's a little purchase or a large purchase.
Mhm.
If it's not something that you and your significant other or whoever is making that decision on based on your needs
Mhm.
and what you guys can afford comfortably, then don't do it. You don't
Right.
have to impress anybody up. You're
No.
not keeping up with anybody else.
No, I
Yeah.
have a relative whose love language is gift giving, and they
Oh,
love to give
give them my name.
extravagant
Yeah.
gifts. It's right. I am not. I'm actually uncomfortable receiving gifts a lot of time. I don't know what it is. I haven't delved into it that much, but like if you buy me an expensive gift, that's actually going to make me anxious and uncomfortable. And so, but this person loves to spend big on gifts, right? And so, we had to have the conversations like, hey, you don't feel like you have to do all
Mhm.
this. It's okay.
But they like it.
They do enjoy it,
Okay.
but they were spending more money than they needed to. You know what I
Right.
mean? So they were, and I'm talking about like hundreds of dollars gifts,
Mhm.
which was really nice. Like, don't get me wrong,
Right.
it's really nice, but it's not what I need.
Right.
Like for my enjoyment, just being in their company is enough. Like
Oh.
that's fine, but you don't have to spend extravagantly.
No.
And so knowing people like that can help you save money too.
Yep.
because you may have been doing it for years, just assuming that that's what they
Yes.
like, and maybe they don't, and maybe that can save your wallet.
Yeah, and one of the greatest things that our family does is my husband has a big family and they love to get together for holidays, and I love it too. We used to have a high dollar amount. We'd just buy and buy and buy, and then we'd be broke. So the holidays weren't fun for us.
Yeah,
It was probably the most stressful time of the year for us. And then somebody else in the family said, "You know what? I can't afford this anymore." And there was a little bit of grumblings, but I was like, "Oh, what a relief. Like it's not just us."
You weren't the only one. Yeah.
And so we have the last few years have had the best time buying small gifts, enjoying each other's company, and at the end of the day, we're not stressed out about it. It's actually fun and a great holiday.
That's right.
Because we're not overspending.
Awesome. So we're going to get into our last segment real quick, and we're going to talk about the coping strategies and getting back on track, because we always want to leave you with some hope.
Yep.
So you want to build awareness. So journaling your spending is a great way to pay attention to what you're doing. I'm not a big I'm not super organized person, but I did find that keeping a budget and actually tracking what we're doing, because I look at my bank account almost every day just to see what I'm spending and all that stuff, keeping track. But if you're the type of person that literally needs to write it down every day, what did I buy today? That'll help you be aware.
You can keep a little notebook in your car and just write it down, or a little box, and just put your receipts in there. Like every time you go somewhere, don't not get the receipt, because if you didn't get a receipt, you didn't buy it. Get that receipt and throw it in the box and just look through it at the end of the day or at the end of the week and just see what you spent your money on. And was it things that you needed to spend your money on, or how does that make you feel when you're looking at those receipts? Because chances are that stuff is gone
already.
Exactly.
And I like what you said. How much of this stuff is what I needed?
Yes.
Because you might find that a lot of the stuff you purchased throughout the day is frivolous, like you didn't actually need it. Yep. The 24-hour rule is really important. So it'll help you pause impulse buying. The 24-hour rule is like, especially online these days, because it's so easy to shop online. So you purchase something, but you leave it in your cart for 24 hours. The reason you're doing that is because in 24 hours, do I still feel the need to buy this thing? And if you don't, that means you were impulse buying. Yeah. And it wasn't actually something you needed. So it's hard.
It's very hard.
Especially because Amazon has instant.
Sometimes it's still an impulse buy and I still really want it. And then you have to really think about it. Yeah.
But after 24 hours, if it's still something you want, then it's yes. But a lot of times you'll find that this wasn't actually, I just in the moment.
Yes.
I felt like I needed this.
Yes.
But now that I've taken a step back, I don't need it anymore. So yeah, 24-hour rule.
Yeah.
But even if because I'm big on, if I need it, if I want it, I'm gonna go to the store and get it right now. I'm not a big online shopper, but I will go to the store and get it. So really, the 24-hour rule helped me be like, okay. I remember when we were buying a new TV, and because our TV literally went out in the living. We have one TV and big TV in the house, and it went out. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go get a TV. I really wanted this really expensive, really nice TV, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get it. And my wife was like, nope, if that's the TV you want, I want you to sleep on it, and then tomorrow I'll go get it. So I slept on it, and I decided to get a less expensive, still nice TV. But I was like, okay, maybe I don't have to spend all that money. I don't even watch a whole lot of TV, which was the crazy part. But yeah. So 24-hour rule helps. Setting up digital guardrails. So unsubscribing from marketing emails will help.
This hit home for me. Like I was like, oh, that is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we get
removing your cards. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Now I don't carry my cards with me anymore. That was my big thing, like because I was buying little things here and there. So I took my cards out of my wallet, which did not help me yesterday at the doctor's when I didn't have my card because I forgot to put it back in. But it is a great tool.
Yeah.
So same thing with removing the saved cards from your inbox. I mean, from your
computer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So don't save your cards on your computer if you can help it.
Because when you have to type that in, it makes all the difference in the world.
It creates one more like little barrier to make you stop and think, right? It's just one more thing to make you stop and think.
One thing that we did when I really wanted to buy a new house, I put a picture of a new house on my card.
Mhm.
So when I pulled that card out to make a purchase, I would see that house instead. So it made me
Nice.
think about a bigger goal than
Mhm.
making that small
I like
purchase.
that.
Yeah.
You keeping that goal with you at
Yeah.
all times. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So some financial self-care is celebrating the spending wins, the non-spending wins.
Hmm.
So if you do have a hard time with spending, if you're a spender like me, I'm a spender. Celebrate when you're not spending so much.
Yeah.
Like just acknowledge it. Be like, hey, you did really well. Like I tell my wife all the time, hey, you're doing really well. Like she really was like, and I'm not throwing her on the bus. She really was like, she felt addicted to
Yeah.
thrift shops and spending and all that good stuff. And so when she hasn't gone in a while, I'm like, hey,
I
that's
haven't
awesome.
either, and it's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am surviving.
Right, exactly. You still
Yeah.
and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Um, somebody said one thing I do is put my items in my Amazon cart or whatever cart and save it for later. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Perfect.
Yep. You put it in your cart,
Hmm.
save it for later, and then if you still need it, if you're like, okay, I really do need this thing, then go ahead and
Hmm.
get it. But a lot of times it'll like for me, it'll sit in my cart for like a year. Like, oh, I forgot I even put
Yeah.
that.
This
I
is
put
no
that in.
longer available.
Right, right. Yeah. But be careful because Amazon will do the thing where they'll be like, oh, now it's 10% off or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like,
Yes, they do, and they
yeah.
put a banner on it that's really bright, so you notice it. Like, oh, I
Right,
must
right.
buy it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, if there is something on Amazon or something that you want, shop around because Amazon is not always the cheapest price.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a really good question. Uh V says I have a tendency of tipping waiters and waitresses really good, but it's out of sympathy, especially if the service is good. What's the most you would recommend tipping? Tipping is very personal.
Very personal.
Um, I
And
don't.
I think personally that because since COVID,
Mhm.
it's just kind of ingrained that everywhere you go, it's built in.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
whether you're doing takeout pizza or if you're at a sit down restaurant. My husband went to buy a suit one time and they had a thing on there for the tip. And
Yeah,
I was like, what?
yeah, yeah.
Like what? But then I felt like I had to give a tip.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I always go with, I mean, if it's really, really good service, I usually do 25%.
Okay.
If it's normal service, I'll do 20
Yeah.
just because.
Yeah.
But if that's not what you can afford, I mean, obviously you want to tip them, especially if it's a sit down meal, but you just tip what you feel comfortable with.
Exactly. So I agree with that. I think again, tipping is so personal. I don't have a rule for tipping. My personal philosophy is above and beyond. So if you gave me standard service, like you did everything you were supposed to do, you're gonna get 20%, right? It's just
Hmm.
if you go above and beyond, that's when we start thinking about okay, what more can we
Right.
give, right? And sometimes it's 25. Sometimes I've even gone, even higher than that. But if I'm at a coffee shop, this is my philosophy. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Or I'll give you the donut shop is perfect example. I'm at the donut shop and I get donuts and you ask for a tip. I don't feel like you've done anything outside of your normal um, job
Job.
requirements to justify a tip. You know what I mean? So again, that's my personal philosophy. It might be wrong, but if I'm like at a like you said, someplace like the suit shop, that's what
Mhm.
they're supposed to do. That's
Right.
their job. Like it's not. So I don't know if I would tip in that situation. I don't think I would, but yeah, definitely if you go above and beyond in some
Yeah.
way. So even if I was at the donut shop and they did something just my kid was crying and they gave her a free donut, like something like that, I would consider tipping. But
See, and I'm a little bit different because if I'm not spending a lot of money or I know that they're not making a lot of money, I will say I worked at a donut shop for a day.
For a day?
For half a day, to be quite honest, when I was in high school. It's hard. So when I go to a place like a coffee shop, I always tip a couple bucks, even if I'm not
Okay.
spending a lot, because they're not even 20% in a donut shop is not a whole lot.
Okay.
So that's just a personal thing because I feel their pain.
Okay.
But
So do you tip everywhere? Like even the random
I
little.
get guilt.
Yeah.
I do guilt tipping. Yes.
Interesting. I don't feel guilty at all.
And I don't know why I do, but like you said, tipping is very personal. And
Mhm,
like, I think that if you're at a restaurant where you sit down, like it used to be, like if you go to a
mhm,
restaurant and
mhm.
you sit down and everything, then yes, you should tip
Sure,
whatever that amount is
sure.
that you feel led to tip. But a lot of times you will get now where for no reason whatsoever there's a tip thing out there. and
Yeah.
and
Mhm,
I worked retail for about 7 years. We didn't get tipped. That was part
mhm.
of what we did.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've worked for
um
tips before. Definitely.
yeah,
I was a sky cap at an airport when we worked for tips.
and it's
So
tough.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, minimum wage.
But
Our minimum wage was like $4 or something
wow.
back in the day, and then everything was supposed to be supplemented with tips.
Yeah.
So I get it. I
Yes.
get it. But I don't feel the need to tip everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is a great question.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely. And definitely don't tip more than you can afford.
Right.
So
But if you can't afford to tip at all and it's a restaurant, then don't go to that restaurant.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Because you know that they're not making a ton of money. My daughter-in-law worked at a high-end restaurant, and
Mhm,
and she did well. She worked her way through college
mhm.
working at that restaurant. But if you can't afford it, then there's nothing worse than not being able to tip at all. And I get
Exactly.
it. I mean, that's when you get takeout.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes the takeout asks for
Tips.
tips.
They always do. You
Yeah.
don't have the option. And even so, the pizza place that I went to the other day to pick up pizza for the grandkids.
Hmm.
So there's the justification. Um, it didn't even give me a chance to do like a 10% or other. It was
Yeah.
started out at 18% and went
Interesting.
up to 25, and it was the takeout
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. It
It
really is
is. It
because
is tough.
because things are so expensive now anyway.
Hmm.
And then when you're adding that, you feel pressure to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And they always say, "Oh, it's just gonna ask you a question."
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how they do it.
yeah.
Hey, Kelly. Kelly Walter is joining us on live.
Hi, Kelly.
She says hi. Where were we? Okay, so we're talking about celebrating the wins.
Hmm.
Budget for joy, not deprivation. When I do my counseling sessions, I always start with goals. So I
Hmm.
start with what are you trying to accomplish here? What is your ultimate goal? Why do you feel like you need to get out of this situation or get into a better situation? So that way your target is not the things you're going to end up sacrificing. The target is the thing that you're working towards.
Hmm.
So definitely when you're budgeting, budget towards joy.
And when you have a goal in mind, it's easier to save, or it's easier to stop the bad habits. We had a
Mhm.
coworker that was working with a couple, and their goal was to buy a house
Mhm.
and to get out of debt. And once they had that goal in their mind, nothing else mattered. They cut back on their spending. They didn't do like it really motivated them once, and it didn't take any special work. It was
Mhm.
just like, okay, focus on this goal,
Mhm.
focus on what you really want out of your life, and then let's make that happen.
Yeah,
And they did within, and it was quicker than we'd even planned for. It was
that's
like
awesome.
instead of being a year process, they turned it into a 6 months process
Yeah,
because they were totally focused on it.
exactly. Having a
Yeah.
goal is so
Yeah.
motivational. Um, One thing you can do is try a money reset. We've actually done this in our house a couple of times. We've done a no eating out for a month. It was a challenge. It was a challenge, but we were able to do it, and we
Good
felt really
job.
good about it, and we saved a lot of money, and it helped us realize, okay, it's possible to cut back on this thing. Maybe your thing is Starbucks. Maybe your thing is McDonald's. Maybe your thing is whatever,
Yeah.
beer. I don't know,
Yeah. Whatever.
but whatever it is, maybe try doing a reset. Maybe for a week, I'm not gonna buy XYZ,
Mhm.
or for a month, or whatever it may be, and it's not permanent. It's just like, can I do this?
But it
And
may
what does
be
it feel like?
permanent because you
Yeah,
may realize that you don't need to go get that coffee, or you
exactly.
don't need to stop and do whatever that thing is that you do on a daily basis.
Hmm.
So it could be something that you set yourself up for permanently.
Absolutely, absolutely. And encourage open conversation about money and mental health. A lot of times we feel shame to talk about this
Mhm.
type of stuff. Um, Maybe talking with a professional, a third party that has nothing to do with you could help. And
Mhm.
so just you don't have to have shame. I promise you're not the only one dealing with some of this stuff.
Nope.
We've shared some of our stories. We have many more stories. There are other people out there that are dealing with these anxieties and stuff. So don't feel like you're all by yourself on an island.
Right.
You're not. So I want to leave you all with kind of a take-home thought. It's what's one thing you can try this week to spend with more intention. So kind of chew on that. What's one thing you could do just this week that could help you spend more intentionally? And I'm not going to define that because I want you to kind of define that as you would define it.
Mm-hmm.
But just think about what's something you can do to be more intentional about your spending. So today, just kind of recap, we talked about retail therapy and emotional spending. We also talked about anxiety and depression and how that affects our money habits. And we gave you some coping strategies and ways to get back on track. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think you've got it. Well, you could just keep in mind my lime green Coach purse next time you go to make a impulse purchase or do something that you shouldn't do. And just remember that everybody makes mistakes.
For sure.
We do. And we talk to people about spending all the time.
Mhm.
So everybody makes mistakes. It's what you do moving forward. That's going to make it. You can't look back because you can't change what you've done in the past.
That's right.
So move forward. Think about what you can do to make those little changes happen. And then celebrate that.
Absolutely. And I want you to remember, we're not suggesting that you stop buying the things that you find joy in and enjoy and do all that stuff. We're not asking you to do that. We're asking you just to be intentional,
right,
and to really pay attention and making sure these are decisions that'll benefit you in the long run.
Yep.
Right. So awesome. Just a reminder, like we said, you're not alone. Your mental health does affect your money, and your money affects your mental health. So be kind to yourself.
Got my mind and my money and my money. I'm sorry.
When I said Kelly,
say that.
when I said Kelly this topic, that was the first thing she said back. I love it. I love it. So if you have questions, oh wait, we have a question in the chat. Which this is you. Which IRA would you recommend transferring my retirement funds?
Okay. And that is not me, because we do not talk with people about their investments. That is above the scope of what we are educated to do.
Yeah, well, that would be a financial advisor.
Yes.
That I would suggest talking to.
Yeah.
There is a difference between a financial counselor and a financial advisor. Yeah. A financial advisor does more future planning and stuff like that.
And we talk about what you've done and what we can do to help your credit score and things like that, help you get to where you want to be. But I appreciate the question. We just can't help you with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How can I sit down for an appointment to speak with one of you? Absolutely. That's a great question. So you can send us an email at community@envisioncu.com. That's community@envisioncu.com. And just tell us what your needs are. You will be asked to do a little bit of pre-work. But once you've done that, we will schedule you for a sit-down appointment. And this is available for members or non-members.
Right.
And it is completely free. We don't charge to do this.
Nope.
We want you to be in a good situation, and we want to set you up for success. So.
And to get started, if you have questions about your credit, pull your credit score, pull your credit report and just take a look at it. You can go out to annualcreditreport.com. We are not affiliated with them, but you can pull your credit for free. You don't have to use a card. And it's called Annual Credit Report because you can pull it once a year, but now you can pull it once a week for free.
Right.
So annualcreditreport.com, no credit card needed, and it pulls directly from all 3 credit bureaus. And you can, if there's anything on there that shouldn't be on there, you can hit the dispute button super easy.
Absolutely. So, yep. So awesome. Thank you guys. The chat was awesome. I love all the participation. This was a really good topic and a really good conversation. So thank you.
They just came to hear me sing that.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was lovely.
Yeah, thanks.
So send us any additional questions you may have in the chat. The videos will be up, and you can also send them to our email that I just gave you, community@envisioncu.com. And thank you so much for joining us. Our next Money Wise Wednesday will be a little bit different. So we are actually, if you haven't heard, we're merging with Addition Financial. They are a credit union based out of Lake Mary, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando. We are super excited about this merger. It's going to make us bigger and better. Nothing that we do changes. It's just we're going to be able to do bigger and better things. Our colors will change, our name will change, but we'll still be the same. You'll see the same faces. We'll be doing the same things in the community. We'll be doing
more,
a little more.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. Yeah. So our next session will actually be kind of a handoff, and so we'll be transferring from this podcast to the Addition podcast. And so just something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So awesome. So for everyone who joined us today, thank you for joining us. Remember to stay money wise, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.